I am Pratham Buddhadev from Rajkot. I have completed my secondary education and I am pursuing ICT degree from Marwadi University, Rajkot. My topic is analog to analog conversion that I have to explain you. My guide name is Professor Chandra C. Parmar from ICT department, Marwadi University. The content of analog to analog conversion is modulation. Modification of one or more characteristics of a carrier wave by an information bearing signal. Why to modulate analog signal? It is already analog. Modulation is needed if the medium is bandpass in nature or if only a bandpass channel is available to us. Bandpass filter. An electronic device or circuit allows signals between two specific frequencies to pass, prevent signals at unwanted frequencies, example radio. The government assigns a narrow bandwidth to each radio station. The analog signal produced by each station is a low pass signal, all in the same range to be able to listen to different stations. The low pass signals need to be shifted each to a different range. Analog to analog conversion. Converting a low-pass analog signal to a band-pass analog signal is traditionally called analog to analog conversion. Analog to analog conversion or analog modulation is the representation of analog information by an analog signal. Uh, Types of analog conversion. There are three types: amplitude modulation, AM, frequency modulation, FM, and phase modulation, PM. Amplitude modulation. An analog to analog conversion method in which the carrier signal's amplitude varies with the amplitude of the modulating signal. Figure shows how this concept of amplitude modulation works. The modulating signal is the envelope of the carrier. As figure shows, AM is normally implemented by using a simple multiplier because the amplitude of the carrier signal needs to be changed according to the amplitude of the modulating signal. Why we need multiplier? Has two analog inputs, output proportional to the product of the two amplitudes. Example microphone. Amplitude modulation bandwidth. The figure shows, the figure also shows the bandwidth of an AM signal. The modulation creates a bandwidth that is twice the bandwidth of the modulating signal and covers a range centered on the carrier frequency. Now we can see the practical of amplitude modulation. This is the waveform of amplitude modulation. Frequency modulation. An analog to analog modulation method in which the carrier signal frequency varies with the amplitude of the modulating signal. As figure shows, FM is normally implemented by using a voltage control oscillator as with FSK. The frequency of the oscillator changes according to the input voltage, which is the amplitude of the modulating signal. Uh, and this figure also shows the bandwidth of an FM signal. The actual bandwidth is difficult to determine exactly, but it can be shown empirically that it is several times that of the analog signal. The bandwidth of an FM signal is similar to 10 times the bandwidth of the modulating signal, and like AM bandwidths covers a range centered on the carrier frequency. The figure displays both the bandwidth and the shaded area. The frequency spectrum of an FM signal, the bandwidth of an audio signal broadcast in stereo is audio 15 kilohertz. Each FM radio station therefore requires a minimum of 150 kilohertz. The bandwidth of a stereo audio signal is generally 15 kilohertz, and an FM station requires at least a bandwidth of 150 kilohertz. The FCC needed the minimum bandwidth to be a minimum of 200 kilohertz, which is 0.2 megahertz. FC is carrier frequency of the station. Now we can see the practical of frequency modulation. This is the waveform of FM modulation, frequency modulation. Phase modulation. And analog to analog modulation method in which the carrier signal phase varies with the amplitude of the modulating signal. Advantage and disadvantage of analog to analog conversion. Advantage. It is simple to implement. It can be demodulated using a circuit consisting of very few components. Disadvantage. Analog tends to possess a lower quality signal than digital. Analog wire is expensive and not easily portable. I have taken some contents from this. Thank you.